Most people believe the Great Depression came out of nowhere. One day, America was rich, confident, and celebrating. The next day, everything collapsed. Jobs vanished. Banks closed. Families lost their life savings overnight. But here's the part almost no one talks about. One man saw it coming. Not an economist. Not a politician. Not a professor. A runaway kid who once left home with just $5 in his pocket. While everyone else was chasing easy money in the 1920s, this man was quietly preparing for disaster. And when the crash finally arrived on October 29, 1929, he didn't lose everything like millions of others. He made a fortune. Today, his name is rarely taught, rarely remembered, and often misunderstood. This is the story of Jesse Livermore, the forgotten prophet of the Great Depression. To understand how Jesse Livermore became a legend, you have to understand where he began. He started his career as a board boy in a brokerage office, which meant his job was simply to write stock prices on a giant chalkboard as they were shouted out. While the older men in the room were arguing about news and politics, young Jesse was silently observing the patterns. He noticed that stock prices didn't move randomly. They moved because of human emotions. He began keeping a secret notebook where he recorded the prices and predicted where they would go next. He found that he was right almost every single time. By the time he was 15, he took his tiny savings to a bucket shop, a place where people made small bets on stock movements, and turned his $5 into thousands. He was so successful that he was eventually banned from every bucket shop in the city. They called him the boy plunger, because of the way he would dive headfirst into huge trades and walk away with the house's money. Jesse eventually moved to New York City, the heart of the financial world. But Wall Street was different from the gambling dens of his youth. Here, the big players could manipulate the markets, and the rules were much more complex. Jesse went broke several times in his early years. He would make $1 million and then lose it all in a single afternoon. Most people would have quit and gone back to the farm, but Jesse viewed these failures as tuition. He was paying the market to teach him how it really worked. He realized that to survive, he couldn't just guess what would happen next. He had to wait for the market to tell him what it was doing. He developed a philosophy that is still studied by top hedge fund managers today. The trend is your friend, and the market is never wrong. By the 1920s, Jesse Livermore had become a giant. This was the era of the Roaring Twenties, a decade where it seemed like everyone was getting rich. People were buying cars, radios, and homes on credit. For the first time in history, regular people waiters, taxi drivers, and teachers were putting their life savings into the stock market. The general consensus was that the American economy had reached a permanent plateau of prosperity, but Jesse was skeptical. While the public was listening to the optimistic speeches of politicians and bankers, Jesse was building a secret intelligence network. He didn't rely on the morning newspaper. Instead, he had his own agents and contacts across the country who gave him real-time data on everything from steel production to wheat harvests. He was looking for the truth behind the curtain. It is absolutely fascinating to look back at the man who predicted the 1929 crash and made millions, because his success wasn't based on a lucky guess or a crystal ball. It was based on the fact that he was the only person willing to look at the cold, hard data. By the summer of 1929, Jesse's secret network was telling him that the economy was slowing down. Factories were overproducing goods that people could no longer afford to buy. The easy money was drying up, but the stock market was still hitting record highs because of pure, unadulterated greed. Jesse knew that a correction wasn't just coming, it was going to be a catastrophe. He began to sell his stocks, and, even more daringly, he began to short the market, which meant he was betting that prices would collapse. For a few months, it looked like Jesse was wrong. The market kept climbing, and Jesse lost millions of dollars as he waited for the bubble to pop. His friends ridiculed him, and the newspapers mocked the old-fashioned traders who didn't understand the new era of endless growth. But Jesse had nerves of steel. He knew that the laws of financial gravity could not be ignored forever. He sat in his office, watching the ticker tape, waiting for the moment when the buyers would finally run out of money. He wasn't just a trader. He was a hunter waiting for his prey. He knew that when the panic started, it would happen faster than anyone could imagine. In late October 1929, the world finally caught up to Jesse's reality. On October 24th, known as Black Thursday, the market began to slide. Panic hit the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Then came October 29th, Black Tuesday. It was the single most devastating day in financial history. The ticker tape couldn't even keep up with how fast prices were dropping. People were literally jumping out of windows because they had lost everything in a matter of hours. While the streets of New York were filled with chaos and despair, Jesse Livermore was in his private office, perfectly calm. He was doing exactly what he had trained his whole life to do. He was staying disciplined while everyone else was losing their minds. When Jesse returned to his mansion that evening, his family was terrified. His wife, Dorothy, had heard the news and assumed they were ruined. She had even told the servants to start packing because she thought they would be evicted. Jesse walked in, sat down, and quietly told her that he hadn't lost money. In fact, he had just made over $100 million in a single day. In today's currency, that would be nearly $4 billion. He had effectively bet against the entire United States economy and won, but this victory came with a heavy price. The public was looking for someone to blame for their misery, and they found their villain in Jesse Livermore. He was called a vulture and a traitor. He had 2 hired bodyguards to protect his children as they went to school. Jesse Livermore's story is a powerful reminder that the stock market is not a computer program. It is a collection of human beings, and human beings are driven by the same emotions today that they were in 1929. We still see bubbles, we still see people buying things they don't understand, and we still see the crowd ignoring the warning signs until it's too late. Jesse was the forgotten prophet because he dared to be right when everyone else wanted to be happy. He showed us that wealth isn't just about having money, it's about having the clarity to see the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. His secret intelligence network was really just a tool to strip away the illusions of the era. As we look at the financial world today, Jesse's lessons are more relevant than ever. He taught us that the most dangerous words in investing are "this time is different." It is never different. The names of the companies change, and the technology gets faster, but fear and greed remain constant. Jesse Livermore eventually lost his fortune, and his life took a tragic turn. But his contribution to the understanding of market psychology is unmatched. He was the man who looked at the greatest party in American history and knew exactly when the lights were going to go out. He was a runaway with $5 who ended up holding the keys to the kingdom. If you want to learn more about the hidden history of money and the legends who shaped our economy, make sure to like this video and hit the subscribe button. By joining our community, you'll get simple, clear insights into the world of finance that you won't find anywhere else. We are dedicated to making the complex world of money easy for everyone to understand. Thank you for spending your time with us today, and we look forward to seeing you in our next deep dive into the stories that changed the world, only on Kiddie Finance.